Yeah, so Christ specifically said that laws and governments is not what's going to bring about a positive change.
No, I have very conflicting feelings about law and government. I mean, I know we need laws and government. And I understand that. I'm not crazy, you know. I mean, I think that's important to have law enforcement, legislatures, you know, developing laws and governments to try and implement all this. And I totally respect the police and the military for, you know, trying to make this stuff all work, but it's all so terribly imperfect. Um, and if you talk to people that are in some form of law enforcement, like attorneys, police, military, I mean, they'll all freely tell you how imperfect, you know, trying to implement this stuff is. The law enforcement people make lots of mistakes, and laws are imperfect, and we have legislatures constantly rewriting laws and making up new laws and getting rid of old laws. You know, um, for example, there used to be a law that if you were driving a motor vehicle and came across a horse, you had to pull your motor vehicle off the road and turn off the engine because it would scare the horse. We did get rid of that law. Um, Believe it or not, there used to be a law that homosexuality was against the law, and they would put you in prison for being a homosexual. And like in my lifetime, we've gotten rid of most of those laws. Um, Thanks be to God that we've gotten rid of those laws. Um, you know, we tried laws against drinking alcohol. Well, that was a big failure. Um, and you can't. We need to try and enforce morality for the sake of society, but on the other hand, morality has to come from the spirit of a person, from the inside. You know,
Yeah, change starts with me.
yeah. You know, we've got to decide not to lie, not to cheat. You know, not to be selfish and greedy, and you know, try and control other people.
Yeah,
That's got to come from the heart.
absolutely. So it's interesting we're talking about laws. Have you heard of Daniel Suelo? Does that ring a bell?
No.
Man, I'm trying to interview him. Um, and I would absolutely love to get you two together on like a podcast because he grew up Christian and like followed Christ and like he actually tried to like take what he said literally. Like Christ says, live like the birds.
Yeah.
I think Christ recommended to like give up all your possessions.
Yeah.
So he actually lived like for 15 years without money and he
Wow.
lived in a
Cool.
cave.
Wow.
He lived in a cave and he actually volunteered to help the homeless as a homeless person,
Uh huh.
which is that's just amazing to me. But he has some man like I'll send you one of his videos that just blew my mind
I'd
because
love to
it
see
was
it.
like
Yeah.
because he has like this he just had like this philosophy about like civilization and I was like wow this is like the rational argument for like uh the future world that Howard Storm experienced in his NDE and like they don't even know each other like
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
So yeah I would love to get you guys together but I think he says something along the lines of like human laws is like a cheap imitation of natural law
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like the laws of physics like what God already gave us. So, yeah, man. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, he has a whole video that like really criticizes like the systems of monetary gain and trade, and like he talks about like is a bear eating the raspberry is the bear receiving a service from the raspberry bush or is the raspberry bush receiving a service from the bear? And then when the
Yeah.
bear poops, yeah,
Yeah.
are the mushrooms that grow receiving So it's just a
And
really
the
cool.
seeds that survive the trip through the bear's gut are being distributed in nice
Exactly.
piles of nutrient soil. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's like this beautiful system that we already have that we
Yeah.
kind of try. It's almost like we're trying to grow more and more independent of it, which is just really foolish, and we're destroying the planet in the process, unfortunately. Um,
My grandfather was an immigrant from Finland. He was raised in a rural area of Finland. They were farmers. And when I was growing up, he had a big vegetable garden, about a half an acre of vegetables that he grew every year. That was great interest to him. And he would tell my sisters, my two sisters and I, that we should do our elimination in his compost pile because he said it made the vegetables grow better. Now, my sisters would not do that because they thought that was the most disgusting, horrible thing they could imagine, like going out and doing your stuff in his compost pile, which was huge. So I did it a few times, and he would praise me for doing that. And as a kid, I was like, he wants our poo and our pee in the compost because it's good for the vegetables. In other words, the vegetables that we're eating are made up of poo and pee, which was like, I grew up in a suburb where like poo and pee is like disgusting. You don't talk about it. You just, you secretly go in and get rid of that stuff and flush it away, and it's like disgusting. And to him, it was a valuable resource. That's how distorted we've become. I mean, in case anybody's wondering, I practice pretty much normal U.S. traditional hygiene in my life, but I always feel, I should be using this stuff instead of just dumping it down the pipe into the municipal sewage system.
yeah, I totally feel that because on my journey to become more minimalist, and I want to start growing my own food
Yeah.
in this yard that I live on. I've looked into people like Daniel Suela, who I was telling you about, but also this guy named Mark Boyle and this guy named Rob Greenfield. And Rob Greenfield gives you tours of like these different ways that he lives, and he was showing video about like, yeah, I just poop in a bucket, and then this is my compost pile. I cover it with leaves, it doesn't smell, and then I
Yeah.
use it to grow food. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's amazing. And are you cool to keep that little bit in the interview?
Yeah. If people think it's revolting, that's their problem.